Kizzy.
Behold, the only thing ain't no right way to be a slave.
Como hemos venido aquí a Cannes, Francia, y esta emisión especial de cultura y entretenimiento, elenco de la nueva versión
Raíces.
Bienvenidos a esta emisión especial de cultura y entretenimiento, el espacio del Tiempo Televisión sobre el mundo de las artes y la diversión. Estamos en el sur de Francia, en Cannes, la ciudad famosa por su festival de cine, pero esta vez lo que nos convoca es el lanzamiento de la nueva versión de Raíces, Roots por su sigla en inglés, aquella serie mítica que a mediados de los 70 conmovió a todo el mundo. Así que, sin perder tiempo, vamos de una vez, y es un privilegio para mí presentarles al elenco y los productores de esta nueva versión de Roots, Raíces. La noche en que se estrenó Raíces en Estados Unidos, el 23 de enero de 1977, partió en dos la televisión de ese país. La serie, que mostraba desde una perspectiva afroamericana la ignominia de la esclavitud, obtuvo registros de audiencia sin precedentes y fue nominada nada menos que a 37 premios Emmy. El mundo pronto se enamoró de su personaje principal, Kunta Kinte, un joven africano que es capturado por los mercaderes de esclavos. Para el actor que lo caracterizó, LeVar Burton, esa noche también cambió su vida.
My memories of that first night back in 1977, I mean, was just terror and anticipation because, you know, no one knew who I was. Roots was my first job. It was my first professional audition. And I was really nervous. I watched the first night by myself in Los Angeles, and then the next day I drove from Los Angeles to Sacramento to be with my mother and family, and we watched night two together.
And it was terrific.
Well, yeah, and we got the news on day two that the overnights from night one were spectacular, much better than anybody ever anticipated. And so, you know, then I began to breathe, you know, because it was no one was really sure whether America would embrace the story.
It was a difficult topic.
It was a hard sell because, as Stan Margulies, the line producer, used to say, in a country where 80% of the population is white and 20% is black, how is America going to embrace this story where the whites are the villains and the blacks are the heroes? No one knew how it was going to play in the heartland. Right? And so the reason it was broadcast originally in 8 consecutive nights was in case it was not successful, that it would be over, you know, very quickly, and the network wouldn't take a big hit in terms of viewership. They didn't even broadcast the original Roots during sweeps. It was broadcast outside of the sweeps period. So no one was really certain how it was going to play.
I will fight for your king. Forward march! From now on, we don't fight for English, we fight for ourselves.
Ahora, 39 años después, la serie Raíces, Roots en inglés, vuelve a estar al aire, producida por el canal History Channel.
It will never die. I will name you Kizzy.
A su lanzamiento durante el pasado festival MIP TV en Cannes, Francia, en marzo pasado, asistió también Anika Noni Rose, actriz que ganó el premio Tony por el musical Dreamgirls e hizo la voz principal de la película animada La princesa y el sapo. Ella hace el personaje de Kizzy, la hija del protagonista Kunta Kinte, en un drama que tiene tintes sociales.
They didn't come from chains.
Anika Noni Rose, do you see this new version of Roots as a social issue?
I think it's definitely a social issue. I think we're still dealing with the repercussions of this pervasive and globally intense phenomenon that was the slave trade. And so until we can find ways to utilize this story for our own progressiveness, to take what we're learning and treat each other as human beings, all of us, no matter the shade of brown or cream, the language, no matter where we originate, to treat each other as if we are a member of the same race, the human race, then the story will need to be told and continue to have to be told.
Raíces es también la historia de una familia, la que crea a Kunta Kinte como esclavo en Estados Unidos. Pero ese entorno dinástico se extiende también fuera de la pantalla, ya que el hijo del productor original en 1977, David Wolper, es ahora productor de la nueva versión. Para Mark Wolper, es una deuda que tenía con su propia familia.
It's a huge responsibility, first of all, in the shadow of my father, having produced the original one, in the shadow of the success of the original Roots, the social responsibility of the story that I'm telling today, particularly in the world today, and the story that I need to tell to my children. My reason for producing this is because of my child, and subsequently every young person on the entire planet, needing to know this story. When my son was sat down to watch the original Roots, it was very difficult for him to watch it. He wanted to leave the room. And I forced him to sit there and watch this important piece of work that was produced by his grandfather. And at the end of it, he said, I understand why this is important, but Dad, it's like your music. It doesn't speak to me. And it was in that moment that I realized that's why I have to try to overcome all of these burdens of the weight of what this means. That's why I have to take this on and try to do it again for him and for all the kids like him, for all the people that did not see the original Roots. This is the opportunity for them to hopefully find it on their own and embrace it and watch it and talk about it and argue about it and debate about it.
A political statement?
I don't see it as a political statement. I see it as a cultural imperative, right? This story is part and parcel of the fabric, not just of America, but of the globe. The slave trade in North America represented only 15% of the population of enslaved peoples. Only 15% of the people out of Africa went to America. So where did they go? They went to South America. They went to the Caribbean. They went to Europe. So the story of enslavement of peoples is a story as old as civilization itself. This is our common story. And the themes that are discussed are universal: the importance of family, the strength and foundation that we are given by our families, the critical nature of identity, who you are. Kunta refuses to give up his identity in the face of being broken physically, emotionally, spiritually. The strength of the human spirit. These are ideas and ideals that we can all relate to.
How about Anika?
I don't know that it is political. I do think that it is personal. And I do think that it will resonate personally with everyone differently, depending on their background and what they're dealing with and what they're fighting with. But when I see, Border Patrol shooting a 16-year-old child from across the street over a wall who had nothing to do with anything, I feel that there is a line to be drawn. I don't feel that it is so different, that type of a persecution. You're persecuting someone solely because of something you have imagined about them to be offensive to you. And that is personal.
Oh, great. How about you, Mark?
Slavery still exists today around the world. And one of the best art is always the greatest spokesperson sometimes for social climate. It becomes the sort of the magnet where everyone comes to, where all the debates begin, is across art. And if this version of Roots can get people to talk about what happened in the past and what's happening today, then that's great. Whether you want to call it politicizing or a political argument, whatever you want to call it, as long as people are discussing it, that's good.
Perhaps seeing these people and their struggle and what they went through and continue to go through to even get the right to vote will assist someone in changing their mind and make that difference.
There is no South without slavery.
He is as bad as they come. You leaving here tonight.
Keep moving north and don't ever look back.
They say a Jew make his way up to a Union fort, he can get a gun and fight. Kizzy.
Behold, the only thing ain't no right way to be a slave.
Como hemos venido aquí a Cannes, Francia, y esta emisión especial de cultura y entretenimiento, de la nueva versión
Raíces.
It was just terror.